All right. I would like to officially call to order the Tuesday, November 5th, 2024 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. And pursuant to the amendment of Bill H3548 and Governor Healy signing such amendment into law in March of 2023, expressing certain provisions of the open meeting law, this public meeting of the Town of Bolton Conservation Commission being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can access this meeting while in progress by Zoom Video Communications, Inc. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by telephone, cell phone, or personal computer using Zoom. Some guidelines for participants. Please utilize the chat or raise hand function to address the board. People will remain on mute until they have been addressed by the board, and participants are required to display their first and last names. All of that said, by tradition, we will start with a roll call of present members. I am Brian Barabee.
Jim Garrity.
Sam Bothwell.
Excellent. All right. First up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss the notice of intent for 933 Main Street, proposed installation of a septic repair. Did everyone, if you remember this from last time, we had asked for some things to be shown on a revised set of plans with the erosion sediment controls, in addition to that note 11 on the plan set that includes the wetland bylaws. We did receive, I know we didn't get it by last Thursday, we did actually receive it today, and I believe Lauren put it in everyone's packet. Had a chance to look at it. I was going to say, had a chance to look at it a little bit earlier. I was actually kind of reading through it. Sam, you bought me an extra minute just to make sure everything we had mentioned was in there. It looks to me like it is. That's and I'm not even sure. Lauren, is the applicant here tonight? Is somebody from
Yeah, we have Jack Maloney here representing the applicant.
Yeah, and Mike Ruderman, the owner, is here as well. And like you said, Brian, those changes were made on the plan, and I didn't get them over to Rebecca. They're in her email box today. You guys should have them, as you said. I will be printing out 2 hard copies to get over to you guys as well, just for to have in your file. So, and
I could pull them up quick. What's the revision date on these plans?
The 24th, I believe. Hang on, I have it right there.
I gotta zoom. I was gonna say your eyes are probably better than mine.
10/24.
All right.
Was the last one. I had added some extra stuff for the Board of Health as well, so you'll get a copy of that.
Yeah. Okay. So that said, I didn't have any further question. I was going to put it over to the board. Any additional questions or comments? Anything that we don't see in the orders as well, the plans now currently submitted with the orders?
Just a quick question. So Jack, you said it's at 10/24 is the revised date? Because I'm looking at, what's it, Rev 2 here on the revised plan?
Yeah, so the night of the meeting, or just after the last meeting, I made those changes, and then I had some Board of Health comments that I had to put in, because we had Board of Health within I don't know if it was the same week or the week after, so they had a couple of changes. One of them was to add some more sand over the top of the system, and we had a conversation about making it an H20 tank. That's all.
Oh, okay. So okay.
The design itself, Jim, stayed the same.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just a couple of technical things.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody from the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Seeing no one, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing for the notice of intent for 933 Main Street. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Gonna make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 933 Main Street as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting with the revised plans with the revision date of 10/24/2024 as presented at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for issuing those orders?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just one question.
Go ahead.
Because I have the client on with us, is how soon would that order of conditions be ready for pickup so he can get it recorded?
Hi, Jack. We have a 21-day filing time. So as soon as we can get the hard signatures in from all of the commission members, then we can release it, but no later than 21 days out from now.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
You too.
I will try to do a good job about remembering to sign as soon as it's ready. I think we're going to talk to Jack again in a minute, possibly. Because I think, yeah, we're at 7:10. All right. Next up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing for under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent for 279 West Berlin Road. Is the applicant or a rep for the applicant here this evening?
Mr. Chair, my name is Greg Roy with Dilson Roy. I'm representing the applicant this evening.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. I'll try to be brief. We opened this meeting, I think, back in September, and we have been awaiting DP file number and comments since then. And so we've appreciate your patience on this. We haven't continued it because we've wanted to. We just knew that you couldn't close it until we got the DP number. About a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, DP issued preliminary comments that they were looking for a stormwater checklist because we didn't technically fall into an exemption under the, it's not technically a residential project, so we couldn't check the exemption box on compliance with stormwater management.
That makes sense.
So we prepared a stormwater checklist, documented compliance with the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Policy, and submitted a revised plan back to, I submitted that checklist along with the associated information and the revised plan on the that was dated the 24th. I think we actually submitted it to DP and your staff on the 28th. And we received a file number just yesterday with no comments from DP. So I think we're in a good spot. The only change we made to the plan, I'm not sure, should I share my screen or is that something you want to do?
That would be great if you could.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
see if we could pull up a plan.
Yeah, I will do that. Bear with me. And again, I'll be as brief as possible here. The only change we made, can you folks see that now?
Yes, now, yes.
Okay. So
If you could
just
zoom
as a
in it all,
reminder-
thank you.
Yeah, just as a reminder, we're proposing a 48 by 60-foot pavilion in the back in a previously disturbed gravel area. I think a lot of you, if not all of you, are familiar with the farm. And the only change we made with the stormwater is just to put a little BMP here right off the edge of the pavement. Very small, but just sort of takes the edge off, runoff coming from the gravel area and the new rooftop area. So that's it. The rest of it just was sort of narrative documenting compliance with the regulations. This is one of those situations where, in my opinion, we need to have a few more exemption boxes that we can check on these because it's just a yes, it's not a residential project, so we can't claim an exemption, but it's one of those situations where why do we have to prepare a stormwater checklist for something like this? But be that as it may, we provided it. DEP was satisfied and issued the file number without any comments. So my understanding was there was no comments that we had from your commission outstanding, and that we were just waiting for the for this file number. But I'm happy to take
Yeah,
any questions.
and to see if DEP had anything further
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
I guess the only somewhat question I'm left with is that new detention basin, was that gravel before the new?
No, we put it just off the edge of the gravel, just in that area, just off the edge. And again, it's pretty small. This plan probably doesn't do it justice, but this isn't a huge detention
Yeah.
basin. It's only a few feet deep and just sort of a little depression, if you will, right off the edge of the area, just to collect that water before it discharges to the wetlands.
Okay. I guess the one thing I would say is the gravel next to it now. Is that the erosion control barrier, the dark black line?
Yeah, let me highlight. So erosion control barrier is this line here.
Yep.
So we did move that slightly. I think we had it coming through here before. So we
Yep.
moved it out maybe 15 feet closer to the wetlands, but again, it's one of those things. We we were hoping not to build it either, but
Yeah, I can imagine.
but it's not a big,
well-
we're not talking about a huge earthwork here. We're talking about a couple feet depression here, just pretty minor.
I was gonna say, I don't think it should affect significantly. I know Rebecca Bachaya is, I was gonna say, I see you there. I know
I'm
you're on
here.
tonight for a hearing later on. Do you have any thoughts on this new feature and how it might change, or if it would significantly change any of our calculations?
So I think the comments that I had or my suggestions to the commission, it remains the same. Greg, just so you're aware, as I was reviewing these plans, one of the items was a concern for creep towards the wetlands. So I'm very familiar with the site and I'm familiar with the agricultural use of the majority of the site as well. And it's just natural over time, just like someone with a lawn, you see a natural creep and encroachment on the resource area.
Yeah.
So one of my suggestions before the stormwater, basin or retention area, I think it's a forebay, was to, in fact, actually pull back some of that gravel about 8 to 10 feet from that erosion control line where it exists today. And now that you have the stormwater infrastructure even closer to the resource area, I'm curious if you're able to, and again, I don't believe, my suggestion to the commission would not be to deny the project, but rather condition it in a way that it reduces the ability to have that creep from the gravel and or the basin here. And I think it may be mindful to actually put the basin in closer proximity to that pavilion area. I know you have specific calculations to find the location that's appropriate, but that would be my one bit of insight associated with it. And again, that was pre the stormwater infrastructure being there, but I think it still stands true with that being proposed as well.
Okay, I didn't realize that was on the table. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Again, that's just my comment to the commission and
Yep.
they
No,
can use
that's
it or not.
Understood. We could also look at permanent demarcation, with some boulders or something along the edge of the limit of disturbance to ensure that we don't have any more creep, if you will. That's something a strategy we employ often. But appreciate that.
Commission members have thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, so I guess, is the recommendation to add, some boulders or whatnot on the area of the depression closest to the wetlands? Is that what it is? Greg? Is that your understanding?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, so a lot of times what we'll do is if we're working in the buffer zone and the commission's concerned about scope creep, if you will, we'll put some permanent demarcation of some kind. A lot of times it's a boulder right along the edge of the limit of work that you approve, so that it's clear that in the future, we can't. And you put perpetual. Been a long day. Perpetual conditions, a perpetual condition in the order of conditions that establishes that there is permanent demarcation where it is on the plan, and that you can't go any further. So,
Thank
I
you.
mean, that's just one way that you could handle it. We'd be certainly willing to add that, if that's what you decide to do.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Sam, do you have strong thoughts, feelings, or any question?
No, I think adding something like a granite post or a boulder or like some signage to identify that area makes a lot of sense in this situation.
All right. Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? And seeing none. So it seems like we would be comfortable adding in something about adding in a permanent demarcation basically along the limit of work, or along where the erosion control barrier is at the limit of work as well, or at the edge of the
Well,
at the edge of gravel. Go ahead.
well, when I'm looking at it, we could do it like here, 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 like that, so that we don't get any scope creep into this. So, still got the buffer zone kind of coming in like that. There, like that, if you'd like.
I mean, it seems to me like that would work, right? To basically hold things where they are now, or at least clearly demark where they should be.
Yep.
Not. This comes up around. Trying to think how we would add that in theory to an order.
You could essentially add a condition that states the limit of work will be marked in the field by stone boulders, and then just that shall be a condition in perpetuity. Or you can give boulders, granite posts, split rail fence. You can give different options too.
Yeah. So the limit of work will be marked. Or
will be memorialized in the field.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of spacing basically.
Oh,
Yeah, to say boulders or
what's the scale on the? Oh.
Yeah, we're 1 inch equals 20. So, this is probably 20 feet from here to here. So if you said like 20, 25 feet, I would think you'd cover it.
So 20 feet on center.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we'd have a problem with that.
All right. So limit of work will be memorialized by permanent demarcation, whether it be boulders, split rail fence, or posts, set every 20 feet from the center line of the limit of work.
So that shall be installed 20 feet on center along the existing limit of work.
Should be installed
Fine.
20 feet on center from the existing limit of work. Okay. Does that seem to capture other commission members, what people would be comfortable with? Okay. And Greg, this is doable. You are comfortable.
Yep.
All right. In
Yep.
that case, and I saw DEP had no other comments. I didn't know if
Yep.
I know we're talking about this, but if commission members had questions about anything else, I haven't seen any. All right. In that case, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 279 West Berlin Road. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well. I'm gonna make a motion that we issue the order of conditions for 279 West Berlin Road as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting, with the following condition added: that the limit of work will be memorialized in perpetuity in the field by a permanent demarcation, whether that be boulders, split rail fence, or posts, that shall be installed 20 feet on the center line from the existing limit of work. Do I hear a second for issuing those orders?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
All
it.
right, thank you, Greg. All right. All right. Second. Next up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss a request for determination of applicability for Zero Ballville Road and Wattaquatic Road, map 3.8, parcel 56. Lauren, is the applicant or rep for the applicant here this evening?
Yep, the applicant is here, Justin Schultz.
Hi, Justin. Would you mind explaining quickly what you are proposing to do?
Justin, if you can hear us, you are muted or we cannot hear you.
Okay. We can give Justin another minute, but
Do you want me to just start summarizing until he's able to?
I was going to say, if you're comfortable doing that, Rebecca, just so we can have a basic summary, that would be great.
Yep, I'm just gonna pull up
As I said, we have
a visual here. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. I think. Oops. Can everyone see that map?
I can, yes.
Okay. So Justin Schultz received permission from the Escalante International, which Kelly is present representing them, I believe. Received permission being to submit this request for determination of applicability, being the property owner. This property here that hopefully you can see my mouse highlighting is the area that has been in agriculture predating the Wetlands Protection Act and continues to be in that use. This field area here is what is being proposed. It's currently used as hayfield and has been used as hayfield in the past, crop land. Again, this is what the applicant had relayed to me previously when they submitted their application. And there is some wood, cordwood, and tree trunks essentially used for that purpose, stored on the property as well. But again, in agricultural use. And what they are proposing to do is to install fencing along the edge of a portion, if not all of the field area here. Not even right up to the tree line. It was explained to me by the applicant that they would be a few feet out. And in addition to that, they are looking to have cattle here, and it will be a cattle pasture. And that is what they're proposing to do. So no excavation or significant change aside from the existing field is going to, they're proposing to have cattle pasture there and then install associated fencing. So the fence posts will really be the initial disturbance there.
Rebecca, do you know whereabouts are the wetlands in on this photograph? I
Yes,
mean, where does
sorry,
it
I
end
can
up
turn
being
that on.
jurisdictional from? Sorry.
So the wetlands are actually pretty much
Looks
the
like this.
entirety of the property.
Gotcha. Goes through.
And as you can see, much of the field and much of the property are within wetlands and or floodplain. Let me see if I can do floodplain data. It's not helpful.
Yes, everything is.
There you go.
Yeah.
So as you can see, pretty substantial resource areas on site,
Yep.
and my layer just disappeared. So that's why they are proposing it within an existing field and not further clearing towards the jurisdictional, or excuse me, clearing toward the wetland area or the stream itself.
Right. And my understanding is it being in an existing field that it would meet the agricultural exemption for, I mean, it's as a non-permanent structure. Basically, you're basically just putting in post holes and fencing. It's definitely an agricultural use.
So under the Wetlands Protection Act, it defines agriculture and includes fencing and fence posts as part of that definition. Our bylaw itself exempts agriculture and the continual use of, or the continuation of the agricultural use, as long as it's been 5 consecutive years or within 5 consecutive years, which this property meets that. In addition, where our bylaw is silent on defining further or specifying further certain components, then it falls back to the Wetlands Protection Act, which again is why that definition is relevant, where it includes the fencing as well.
All right. I mean, to me, it seems like it meets the necessary exemptions, even under our bylaw, if we end up referring back. I'm done. Well, let me try that again. Members of the commission, any comments, questions, thoughts?
I don't have any questions as it's proposed right now. I guess the only question that I will have in the future is where are they going to go in the winter? If there are cattle there. As someone who owns cattle, I know they have to go in in a structure, which is, I guess, kind of my point.
Yep.
Are we looking at this for,
Justin,
that's, a bigger question.
Justin, can you type it into the chat? Okay, thank you. No, we cannot hear you. Can you type your answer about the shelter in the chat, please? That's a good question, Sam. So Justin's just having issues apparently with the speaker and audio, so he's going to type the answer into the chat.
Thank you.
So I know everybody can read it, but I'm just going to state it into the recording. Justin stated we have options for an existing barn structure across the street. So to use the existing barn structure, raising Heiford cattle require minimal winter shelter, and a temporary portable shelter will be used, typical 3-sided building with no fixed footings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing?
Brian, I do have one more question.
Oh, please,
Sorry.
Sam, go ahead.
Roughly how many Hereford cattle are you looking at, and roughly what is the size of the lot?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, geez. Sorry, it was hooked up to my Epson projector at work. I could not figure it out. I use Teams,
Sorry,
so sorry about that.
it happens.
I think for right now, the quantity would be up to 6. That's the plan. The area is roughly 3.5 acres. That's proposed right now. That's an existing field.
Perfect. Thank you. And you're looking at TP, so you're looking at something a little bit more structural, such as a cedar post.
It'll probably be pressure treated is what I have. I can actually share my screen. If that helps to show a plan I put together.
That would be great.
yep,
Yeah,
that
if
would
you're
be
able to-
great.
Herefords like to push over the T-posts.
Let's see. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Again,
Yes.
So this is our request for determination of applicability that we submitted. With this is a plan that I put together here showing the actual proposed location, existing field, like we spoke about. Limit of work, not any additional clearing or removal of any additional trees, keeping it within the footprint of the field that's there. And then for what we're going to do for the fencing, it'll be a electric fence on the 3 sides in the back. The road side would be a wood fence with a gate. So it'd be a 4x4 pressure treated post, 3 rail high, with additional wiring fence, nailed to the fence on the inside. That's a proposed right now. I may go with like an 8x8 for a post. But that's what we initially drew up here.
thank you.
Additional questions from commission members?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Kelly,
Hi,
please.
on behalf of Escalante, they're very supportive of this. They've had a good relationship with Justin over the years and hope to continue that.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing none. That said, everybody, I mean, personally, I'm comfortable that it meets exemption for agricultural purposes. Others comfortable with that as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. In that case, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing for, sorry, what number are we? That we, sorry, we close the public hearing for 0 Ballville Road and Wattaquatic Road map 3.A parcel 56. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Laura, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
I'm going to make a motion that we issue a -5 determination for the request for determination of applicability for 0 Ballville Sawyer, 0 Ballville Sawyer and Wattaquatic Road map 3.A parcel 56. Do I hear a second for issuing that determination? And I should say -5 basically states that the work being proposed meets exemptions and therefore there's no further conditions.
Second.
Those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Guys, take care. All right. Just give me 1 second. Next up this evening, we had the request for a certificate of compliance for 38 Long Hill Road. If you remember last time, there was a site visit. There were some things that weren't completed yet, and I know Rebecca had talked to him about what needed to be done to bring everything into compliance, to issue the order, to issue the certificate of compliance. I don't believe there has been any action yet, or there are no updates to that currently. So I think we're proposing that we're going to hold off on taking any action on it this evening until we hear back. All right. Next up this evening, and Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, we have our budget discussion.
That is correct.
Hey, and that, I know that is the reason, the primary reason that we have Rebecca joining us this evening. So welcome back, Rebecca.
Yes, that is accurate.
Right.
So one of the primary things that I would like to get out of this evening is just at least 3 priorities in terms of goals for FY26. And then if we can prioritize the other items in your packets, you had gotten a fairly lengthy document, which you've had for a couple meetings now. But I know it takes time to get through this. And I want to make sure and make it clear that all of those projects or goals that were highlighted in that document, that's more than what can get done in a year or two. So I want to be sure that we're leaving tonight with either prioritization of that document, if we can't choose a handful, at least 3 specific projects. And we can approach this, I think, in 1 or 2 ways. The first would be, again, to choose 3 projects, whether they're on the list or not. And then the second way is to prioritize ongoing items that are listed under the land stewardship item. And these are items that every year, these are things that we have to do and that we are doing, but we can prioritize those. And then the sort of section that's sort of A, and then B of that option is then prioritize 3 project-based goals that aren't reoccurring maintenance items, but rather something that's fairly large. And then the last item I do want to get the commission's feedback on is whether or not you would like me to move forward with the capital expenditure request for the Bowers Dam maintenance, because that is something that we'll have to submit for capital request. And I want to make sure that if the commission wants that to occur this year, that I'm submitting the necessary documentation for consideration. Or if we want to push that out, which I wouldn't suggest, but I'm happy to support the commission, push it out another fiscal year, and just knowing that that would then raise in priorities for next year. Does that all make sense?
It does to me. Well, it's, first of all, I suggest we should probably do a share screen, pull up the budget so we can start looking at some of those priorities going down. But just taking the last thing you talked about first, because that is what trying to think of what our top 3 goals. That's one that I had down was Bowers is usually one of our most popular properties. It gets used constantly, and I know it's a big project. It's going to be a big time suck, even if we contract it out. But I had that down as a goal for next year. Is probably that Bowers capital improvement, or basically the shoring up of those. So it kind of worked for both. to say, do you want to pull up or share somebody's screen the
Rebecca, do you want me to share that?
Yeah, Lauren, if you wouldn't mind doing that, that'd be great.
Rebecca, just a quick question on the Bower Spring. So that comes out of our budget, or is that a different budget?
That would come out of,
Because it's capital?
it comes
or-
out of the town's budget.
Okay.
So at town meeting, if it's capital expenditures, would not be specific line item from the conservation budget.
Okay.
But it would be incorporated into our budget in FY 26 as we're requesting it from the town, if that makes sense.
So it would still be part of our budget?
Yes, just not as a line
request.
item.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
It would be in a, sorry, it would be in a different category is the short answer.
Okay. So this is, I mean, so this is our primary document. We know the first ones through Century Mill Estates is coming up. And you were saying even like within land stewardship, kind of trying to look to prioritize within that as well.
Yep, that would be
Possibly.
fine. So again, you can prioritize those land stewardship items that are more reoccurring, those first couple items. And then pick a couple project-based prioritization items, or you can just say these are, and I'm curious if commission members did have just in their minds, without looking at this list or after reviewing this list,
Yeah.
what was your initial thought on this needs to be a priority or this needs to be taken care of within this next fiscal year?
I mean, I can speak quickly. That so that the top one I had was Bowers. And again, it was weird because I was trying to look at some things that might be more priorities going forward, but in a few places in the document we talk about the community garden and reassessing where the community garden needs to, and resetting that up. And again, that's, I don't know how much at the top of my list, but that's one I do hear about in the community from time to time, and I know it's important to a number of people. You know, it can be a very good use of time. So I had Bowers down, I had the community garden down, and then again, basically the maintenance and safety of our properties as far as trail maintenance goes. But again, that's kind of with our ongoing. We might have to scroll down to other areas, but I at one point I know we talked about IDing. It had talked about IDing at areas that are at risk for flooding, or I thought that might be better to do sooner rather than later. And I wish I had written down the numbers on some of these, and I don't think I did for IDing areas at risk of flooding, so it might not have been in one of the numbered ones. I just thought for us going forward too, as you know, as certain properties go for sale and come up, knowing some of those areas, knowing, again, we know some of the roads that flood. We went through some of this with some of the places off a Long Hill where, we know there's massive flooding there when they were proposing those driveways. I had that one down. You might have to scroll up, Lauren, to 4.2.4. And again, I'm not saying this is my 2.4. Was that investigating similar communities land clearing regulations? I knew there were some of the priorities here about land clearing and looking at and possibly addressing bylaw regulations. Excuse me. I thought it might not be a bad priority to have starting to benchmark what other communities are doing, or just trying to look and trying to build our knowledge of what other places have set up, what they think is working well for them, what they think isn't working well for them, and that perhaps helps us on some of these other priorities where addressing other bylaws or looking at other land clearing policies. So I had kind of jotted that one down as one I thought might come before some other ones, depending. Could you scroll down to 5.1.2? I was curious, Rebecca, if you could give a little more information on the Community Preservation Act.
I would have to pull up some information to get more clarity on that, but essentially I'm going to paraphrase, so don't take this as by
Perfectly
definition.
fine. That's I was hoping for.
It's a community opportunity where when you pay into it, but it's a pool of funding that you are able to pull from. A lot of adjacent communities utilize that fund for purchase of land, enhancing community spaces. So there is value to it. A lot of communities are participating in it, and they're able to actually accomplish some projects pulling from that fund because they are they have adopted the Community Preservation Act in their community.
Okay. I wasn't sure exactly what it was on how that funding worked, but I saw that as a possible priority again. I saw it as a way to get additional funding to a certain extent, but I know you've done a lot of great work with grants. We're looking for grant funding. I think it probably couldn't hurt to be able to say that we have adopted the CPA, or we're a CPA member thing as far as on grant applications. I saw that as being an interesting priority, but again, I'm curious what others have to think, and I'll be curious to get your thoughts too, Rebecca, at the end, but just kind of throwing out some of the ones that I had looked at as possible priorities. Lauren, can you scroll down to, I think it's 8.3.5? Which one was this? New development infrastructure. Yeah, that was just one. I know I have to imagine that we're going to have more developments coming, and being as up to date on possible on or getting our stormwater management bylaws in as good a shape as possible with the updated science or what we're knowing and seeing around town, I thought could be important. And then I think that was 8.3. I think 8.5.3. Oh yeah, and again, I know it was on the top priorities, but including climate resilience is a stated goal to be considered within design review criteria. I know we've been working with the oh my gosh, the climate resilient project, building climate resiliency in it.
The
seemed like
MVP project.
Thank you. Yes, municipal vulnerability preparedness. That this was a bit of a nice tie-in with that, based off a lot of some of the work we've already done, or some of what we're finding with being part of the MVP program, that it might be something that we could try to build that resilience into some of the design work. But again, there are so many other things. Those were some of the ones I had spotted, just trying to think of things that would kind of get us prepared for what we might be facing in the next year or so. Again, I'd like to hear what other people saw, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on some of those, Rebecca. I was going to say, I don't know if a commission member wants to go first, or I was going to say, well, perhaps Rebecca, if you can give me your thoughts on some of those things, it might give other people things to think about.
Sure. This is, again, you're the Conservation Commission, so I take direction from you. I don't disagree with any of those. What I will just highlight is the land clearing line that you were talking about. That is an item that's both in the open space and recreation plan and the master plan. That's why it's highlighted in the way that it is. So that's a good goal. But in addition to that, that is something that is primarily planning and zoning. And as always, being the conservation department, we do work together and provide feedback on that. This was also incorporated into one of our last MVP projects where we did look at what other towns are doing. So we have a lot of that base data, which is helpful for verbiage to put in a bylaw or associated regulation. And that's associated with not land clearing in general, but just when developments occur, that they're not clear cutting the entirety of the property, but rather doing it in a mindful way. So it might be 1 or 2 acres, whatever that limitation is, versus a full 40 acres. And then the point about the stormwater management bylaws, that is something that our town planner, who is the floodplain manager, has also already stated she will be working on and updating. So that's right in line with what we're seeing already. And then climate resilience included in design review, I believe she's also working on that too. So
Okay.
again, all of these goals that are written are in line with actions that the town would like to have. So I don't, again, all of those seem reasonable. I just want to clarify, Brian, that when you said Bowers, are you referring to the dam project at Bowers, or are you referring to Bowers maintenance in general, or both?
Well, I a little of both, but I was primarily referring to the dam project.
Okay, all right. Thank you for
Yeah.
that clarification. I just want to make sure that I'm taking notes appropriately.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, and again, I apologize. I'm somewhat all over the place myself. I was to say, I appreciate you letting us know kind of where some of those things are falling within the town,
Yep.
because you're wonderful in pointing out that we are the commission, but I will also say that, we rely, or at least I rely on expertise.
Yes.
And again, you will know your limits better than I will. And you might have an idea sequencing that will work better, that will get us to a better place.
Yep.
So at least I always appreciate that expertise and your thoughts on what some of our priorities would be as well.
Sure. And I'm curious to hear from Sam and Jim and Lauren even, what they were thinking would be priorities.
Jim, do you have something? Because I have some things if you don't.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Sid. Yeah.
So some of the things that kind of were highlighted to me were some of the CPA. I come from a town originally that has a CPA fund, and it was extremely effective in helping preserve not just like agricultural lands for better development and future uses for the community, but it was a really big benefit to the town. I would love to see the town of Bolton be able to push through the CPA and be able to be a part of that and have that really help our community. I think there's a lot of good that can come from CPA funds. And I believe that you put in like a certain dollar amount through your taxes. And Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the state also has a certain dollar amount that they will contribute. So if you're interested in buying property in particular, you're able to kind of get a better match. So you don't have to come up with all of those dollars on your own. So CPA for me is probably one of the bigger ones. And I think that once the CPA, if it gets established, that's what the town decides that they want to push forward with, I think that kind of looking at some of the other local farm things that are identified on the list would make a lot of sense. Some of the other ones, I think that we are seeing more and more stormwater mitigation practices and stormwater management stuff. I think that it would be really wise for the town to be able to adopt some of those bylaws. I think we're seeing bigger new developments that we don't have the teeth to be able to handle for some of those big developments. And I think that the adoption and creation of some of those kind of heftier stormwater management bylaws would be really wise to do on our part as well. Those are the two like big flags for me on stuff that I would love to see within the next like year. I think Bower Springs is also a really dynamite one, but I think that if we start getting some of the CPA stuff, we might be able to have a better leg to stand on with like community gardens. So I'd like to see that first before we do something like community gardens or look at some of the ag stuff. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Yeah, some of the things is certainly, preserving, our open space, right? That's certainly a priority for me. Trying to get Boy Scouts into conservation restriction, kind of shoring up some of the farms to see if we can get those into agriculture. And Bower Springs certainly is certainly a high priority.
Yeah, Rebecca, I just had a quick question about just kind of, so back about the Community Preservation Act. What would the process be of actually implementing that? Does
So
that,
the very first step, there would be a lot of outreach associated with this. And just education to the community, doing some workshops likely. And then in addition to that, the first formal step would be getting the various departments to, just like we typically do, vote in support of adopting this. And then from there, we would propose it as an article at town meeting or potentially the select board, whichever department decides to take the lead on that, maybe planning, but then it goes to town meeting, and once it's voted on at town meeting, then there's sort of the legal process and financing lining up.
So Rebecca, right now, how do we buy land right now?
So right now, we either purchase it outright or we apply for grant funds. And negotiations are done with myself and the town administrator when applicable. The last purchase that we had was the Taggart Forest Land parcel, which was purchased at a negotiated price with a mix of funds that were raised by the town at town meeting and voted on that way, in addition to a land grant, which provided about 50% of that purchase price.
Okay, but the town vote, it goes to town meeting.
Yes, it goes to town meeting unless it's a donation, in which case it would just go to the Conservation Commission and then the Select Board.
Okay, and then if we do a Community Preservation Act, that's an ongoing yearly thing that
Yes.
part of people's taxes that they vote on would go into that fund.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, good, great, thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great thing.
Okay.
I will kind of preface, I have been told by people that have lived in town longer than I, that this has failed in front of town meeting before.
That is
So,
correct.
yeah.
We
I'm
can try
prepared.
again.
I will try again. I
Yeah.
think that's a positive thing for the town.
do we know how many times that's gone before town meeting? Is it just once in the past, a few
I want to
times?
say twice. I could be wrong. though.
Okay,
I think it's twice. That's what I've heard too, Rebecca.
But again, we can sort of look into that information and see why it failed. And is it a repetitive issue, or is it something that has to do with misinformation? Does it have to do with something that changes from year to year, or is it something that is just permanently there in perpetuity? And we'll take a look at what those hurdles
Mhm.
might be. But that's essentially why we would be highlighting it as a goal, to do that research.
I think it's also been a number of years since we've done something like that. And I think that there have been a lot of victories for the towns that have this funding. So that might be something else that we might be able to highlight as well. Food for
right, and maybe
thought.
that's something we can look into, reach out to other communities and see what their public outreach looked like in the past and how they were able to move forward with that. Might be
Yep.
helpful.
Yep, definitely.
Great idea.
So it sounds like the commission members present at least are thinking that the CPA adoption funding opportunity is something that we want to prioritize for FY 26. It also sounds like Bowers is an agreed upon, the Bowers Dam project is an agreed upon focus for FY 26, and therefore I'll put forward that capital expenditure request. Or capital request, sorry. And lastly, the stormwater management bylaws seem to be uniform, as highlighted as importance, and then regular maintenance of our properties. And then Jim, you specifically highlighted Camp Resolute, which is a property that's highlighted in the master plan, and indirectly in the open space recreation plan, along with our farms. This is something that actually a group, myself, the Sudbury Valley trustees, and the Bolton Conservation Trust are looking into. And that's various funding opportunities for our local agricultural properties and how we might be able to highlight some of the opportunities that are available. And then if they're interested, get them moving forward with that. So again, that's something that's more reoccurring in terms of assessing properties or looking at properties as they come up and seeing what programs we might be able to pair them with if the town doesn't have the ability to physically purchase them. And you're aware, obviously, we're looking into Camp Resolute and the various potential that may or may not be there.
Yep.
So does that summarize our prioritization? Is there anything else that wasn't on the list, maybe that individuals felt should be included?
I mean, speaking for myself, no. I mean, I was almost overwhelmed by the list,
Yeah.
and it was, and again, I'm cognizant of your time and now Lauren's time as well, that, to say, oh, well, yeah, this, but, we still have our ongoing things that we need to be doing as far as any of the hearings go or any ongoing projects. We know we have some large projects coming with Alta and Neshoba Valley. The high school is going to be going. I think it seems like we're all in agreement too that, Bowers, we just need to address Bowers sooner rather than later. I was nervous about just giving you way too much.
Yeah. So, well, as I said, what's going to happen is, so now that we have some prioritization projects here, I'm going to then draft the budget more formally, and then I'll bring it back to you. You will vote to either accept it or alter it or change it. And in addition to that, the goals will be included there also, knowing that if things are accomplished in a super efficient, timely manner, if we have grant funding that for some reason expedites a project that's prioritized there, then we would go to other items on the list. So before our next, the next meeting where I provide you with that draft budget in full, you are certainly welcome to look at that goals list and move them around and prioritize them, knowing that we will be pulling from that list if things are accomplished, like I said, in a more efficient manner than we believe them able to be.
And I was going to say, I should say again, if you want to move closer to the top of the list, or even recommend to us possibly moving closer to the list, any things that you spot that are something that you wanted to get to, or is low hanging fruit, or is something like that's a project I've been waiting to do and I can do it, or now that Lauren's here, I can easily do this. But some of those projects that we might not recognize can be either more easily accomplished, or it's something you're currently working on, or something you'd like to see get done. Please let us know.
I will definitely do that. So are there any remaining questions from commission members on this particular item of the agenda?
Thank you for pulling it together.
I'm trying to give you all the best information I can to make this easier on you.
I appreciated the grant funding too, because that kind of gave me a scope of like how we're purchasing things.
Yep.
So thank you for doing, this was a lot. So I appreciate the work that you put into this.
Thank you. And I think, Sam, you had highlighted, and you saw in your packet some of the draft visuals that I'm working on for advisory. Something that Sam had requested at one of the prior meetings that I did provide, but it's not relevant during this meeting, I think, to view it. is to break down the grants, specifically what's been used for land maintenance, which I hadn't thought to do that before. So I think that was a very helpful exercise, but also it'll be really helpful when we present to advisory to have that handy. So I appreciate you highlighting that. And if you have other thoughts on things like that, that would be helpful. And that I can prepare before we go before advisory. Once we do have our draft budget, I'm more than happy to work with you on that or develop something that might be presentable.
Yeah, I think that was really helpful. And I know it's not directly related to this, but it also kind of is.
Yeah.
Because it gives us a scope of like how much are we needing outside of our traditional budget. And it's impressive what you have done. So I think that as far as like scope of how we purchase land, that just, for me, that was one of the big reasons why I made the comment of let's try and figure out the CPA stuff. Because it's clear that we don't have a great structure in place. And if you were to leave, there's a massive hole.
I leave great notes if I am out of the office for any
Yeah.
reason. So
That is true.
I try to leave great notes. Maybe Lauren can speak to that, but I appreciate
no, you
that
do.
sentiment, Sam. But okay. If we are all set on this item, I'm actually going to jump off. And I will again summarize the information and put it into more of a formal budget draft and then send it back out to all of you before the next meeting.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Good luck. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. All right, moving right along with our lovely agenda, and thank you everyone for your comments. We will get through this budget and priorities. We will get it in. What we have? Oh, as far as enforcement order updates, as far as 146 Hudson and 31 Manor are still moving towards compliance. There are no updates for 100 East End Road or Century Mill Estates, sadly. Oh, in our packet are the minutes from the 15th meeting, from the October 15th meeting. Anybody have any edits, corrections, or changes to those minutes? Or does if not, anybody need more time to read through the minutes? Just good. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our October 15th, 2024 meeting as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for minutes?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Trying to look for conservation land updates. It's funny, we were talking about Bowers earlier. So the beach area stabilization project that we had talked about last time should be beginning soon. Lauren, I don't know if we got an exact date from Rebecca. I know it is
Not an exact date, just that it should be starting around this week, the first week of November.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't have that exact date.
Okay. So, but just so public knows, anybody listening here knows it will be starting relatively soon. The project's going to require some snow fencing to be put up to basically cordon off that area. But in speaking with Rebecca, they are able to put it up in a way that the trail remains open. So the trail will be open to the public, but there is an area that's definitely going to be cordoned off by some snow fencing, and please stay out of that area. It should be pretty clear, but for anybody watching tonight or watching a recording of this, know that the snow fencing will be going in soon, and please stay out of that area. Regarding the Bolton Trails Connectivity Improvement Project, I know they have a lot of those bridges. They've been putting those bridges in. They have a section they are looking to do on November 23rd. It's a Saturday, November 23rd. They actually do need more volunteers for this. They need hands basically to get the materials down into where it needs to go. So they're looking for any volunteers they can get for, I believe it's a Saturday, November 23rd. Anybody who might hear this that might be interested in volunteering can either contact Rebecca, contact Lauren, or there should be information on the website. But I know the Trails Committee is putting that call out for volunteers on November 23rd if people are available. Dave.
Do you know if we've reached out to like the National Honor Society or something like that to promote this as a way to get
Volunteer.
community service hours?
I don't know that we have. I was going to say, Lauren, is there a way we can jot that down? I know Rebecca has reached out to the
Sure.
high school before when they were looking for volunteer projects with community cleanups, but that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I'm looking for it.
We'll put that out there.
Have moments.
Looking at looking for with volunteer opportunities, we still do have our volunteer land steward position available, but we're also looking to fill there is a community liaison position for the Derby Field project. I believe it's written into the grant for that project to have this position. My understanding is that it's a volunteer position. It's limited hours, basically working on outreach, educational information, along with that whole Derby Field regreening project. Am I understanding that correct, Lauren?
You know what? I don't think it's a volunteer position.
Okay.
I will have to double check on that. I think it's a paid position, but very limited hours. And it's position basically focusing on providing outreach for workshops in the spring regarding the Derby Field project that's going on. There's more information on the town website too. And if anyone is interested in applying for that position, they can email me directly at landuseadmin@townofbolton.com or Rebecca at concom@townofbolton.com. I'll have to look more into that though. I don't think it's I believe it's a paid position.
I think it was part of the grant, and I couldn't remember where it falls under.
Yeah.
But that is actually, I was going to say, there is more information out there. Anybody who would
Yeah.
possibly be interested in this, if they reach out. I think that's all the updates that I have, Lauren.
Yeah, I don't have
Then
anything
we have
else.
2 seats open on the Conservation Commission. Still, shockingly, if anybody's interested. I didn't have anything else down. Did you? Let me try that again. Did I miss anything or anything?
I think we
bring up?
covered everything. I'm looking through my notes. I don't see anything else.
Yeah. I guess that's it. Commission members, anybody have any new business? Anything you would like to discuss that we have not yet brought up this evening?
When is our next meeting? Is it the
There's a good question.
It is the 19th.
19th,
Tuesday the
okay.
19th.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I am going to make a motion that we hereby adjourn the Tuesday, November 5th, 2024 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second for adjourning?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Great. Thank you very
Talk
much.
to you all. Yep. See you in 2 weeks, if not before.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good
Take
night.
care, guys.
Good. Bye.